What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my updated New Year's Six Bowl projections for Week 8 of the 2023 college football season. We are now officially heading into Week 8 of the 2023 season, so I'm going to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into this weekend, and mostly this is based off of how last weekend went. You look at last week's projections. In my New Year's Six Bowl projections, I have made a lot of changes compared to last weekend. Week 7 was a really crazy weekend full of great upsets that happened and everything. So we're going to give you my updated New Year's Six Bowl projections based off of what happened from this past weekend. And again, how this New Year's Six Bowl projection video works, I pretty much give you, we're both mainly focusing on 4 out of the 6 New Year's Six Bowl games. And pretty much, we'll give you also those playoff semifinal games. 2 of the playoff games, are semifinal matchups in 2 New Year's Six Bowls this year. And again, I'll give you my playoff projections, semifinal playoff projections from yesterday. Again, you can go back and watch that video if you have not seen my playoff projections for Week 8 of the 2023 season. But again, we're going to get right into my New Year's Six Bowl projections here for Week 8. Again, this is not an official prediction. This is simply a projection based off of what we've seen so far and also how the teams played from this past weekend. So let's get right into it here with my projections. We'll start with my playoff games from yesterday in the Rose Bowl. I still got Florida State and Michigan here. I think it's more than likely that we might see these two teams here in the Rose Bowl. You got Michigan. I think they've been the most impressive, Big Ten East teams so far. I know you still got Ohio State and Penn State in the schedule for Michigan, but when I look at those games, I think Michigan's going to win on the road and obviously compete against Penn State on the road. I know it's a very tough place to play, but again, when I look at this Michigan offense, they have definitely been rolling the last 3 weeks, and then obviously the defense continues just to be dominant as well. So Michigan here, I got them as the highest Big Ten team as of right now, and then I got Florida State here, the top ACC team. Florida State will kind of play a trap game tomorrow against Duke. That game's going to kind of be one of their toughest schedules for the rest of the way, but if Florida State wins that game, they're definitely in the ACC championship. I don't think there's really more than likely that Florida State will lose for the rest of the year. So yeah, Florida State can have a chance to finish out undefeated. I think it's more than likely they'll play North Carolina in the ACC championship or maybe against Duke in a rematch, depending on what happens for the rest of the way for the ACC. But don't count out Louisville. Louisville's still in that conversation. I think Clemson is likely out of it now. But again, the ACC is, got 4 teams. They're battling for that ACC championship spot. But again, this is who I had in my playoff semifinal matchup from yesterday, and that is the Rose Bowl. It's Michigan versus Florida State. Once again here, then the number 2 versus number 3 matchup. And then in the Sugar Bowl, in my number 1 versus number 4 matchup, I had Georgia and Oklahoma. So no change here. I still think Georgia is one of the top teams in the country, even though they did not play really well this past weekend. But, Brock Bowers went down with an injury, and that kind of concerns me now for Georgia at the tight end position. But I think they're really good on both sides of the football. Georgia's got a bye week coming up this weekend. When you look at the rest of their schedule, they got Florida coming up next weekend. And when I look at that Florida game now, I think it could be a very tight game, but I think Georgia's going to pull away from Florida probably in the second half. And then you got, of course, Missouri still to play out of the East. They got Tennessee on the road. That could be one of their toughest games on the road this year. And then you got, of course, Ole Miss at home. So, yeah, Georgia's schedule doesn't get much easier for the rest of the way. And then for Oklahoma, not much to talk about them from this past weekend. They had a bye week. They're coming off that win against Texas a couple weeks ago. That was kind of enough for me to put them here in the Sugar Bowl and obviously in the playoff semifinal games. And again, you can go back and watch my playoff semifinal predictions as well and see who I had predicted to win the games if those games were to happen, let's say tomorrow or maybe next weekend. So Oklahoma and Georgia here, this is who I had in my number 1 versus number 4 seeded matchup. Those are my playoff semifinal games from yesterday in the Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl matchups. Now let's now get to the regular New Year's Six Bowls, and we'll start here with the Cotton Bowl. I've had a change here. I got Texas here. It's still in the Cotton Bowl, but I got Oregon here as my new team in the Cotton Bowl. Texas, I think this is the second best team in the Big 12 right now. I know that second place spot is pretty much wide open. But, I think it's really controlled by Oklahoma. But I think Texas is probably going to more than likely go 11-1 and probably get a rematch with Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. If they do that, if they win that game, I think they're definitely going to have a chance to make the playoff. And then if they don't win it, I still think this Texas team is going to get into a New Year's Six bowl game. I think it's going to be the Cotton Bowl that they end up getting in. But, the New Year's Six bowls are different this year. So, they could end up in any New Year's Six bowl except for the Orange Bowl and everything because that is an ACC versus Big Ten/SEC game. So, but again, I have Texas here in the Cotton Bowl, and then I got Oregon here. I know they're coming off a loss to Washington this past weekend, but I think this is still a good enough of an Oregon team that can win out and possibly go to the Pac-12 championship. It's more than likely that we can get Washington versus Oregon in the Pac-12 championship in a rematch, but in my preseason, I did pick USC to win and all, but when I just look at USC, I just don't think they're going to win out and probably go to the college football playoff. And also, I don't think they're going to make it to a New Year's Six bowl game because the schedule, the rest of the way for, them is really tough. I did have USC here this past weekend in my New Year's Six bowl projections, but just based off of their performance against Notre Dame and the defense, and everything, the defense has not been really solid this year for USC. So with that being said, I think Oregon's going to be that second best team in the Pac-12 that is more than likely to get to a New Year's Six bowl game. But again, this is my Cotton Bowl matchup, Texas versus Oregon. Two great teams here that we probably could see a matchup here between these two teams. Texas, obviously, I think with a better defense than Oregon. I think Oregon has a very explosive offense. So this is who I had in my Cotton Bowl. Moving on to the Fiesta Bowl, I got Washington and Air Force. So again, I think Washington is the front runner in the Pac-12. After that win against Oregon, I think they are the front runners. And when I just look at this Washington team compared to USC, I just think they're the more better team and the more talented team than USC. I know they still got to play USC on the schedule, but I think Washington more than likely is going to beat USC just because based off of the performance and everything from USC. So, again, I got Washington as the front runner in the Pac-12. It's more than likely that they can go undefeated and possibly go to the college football playoff as that top team in the Pac-12. And then, obviously, I think USC can get into a New Year's Six bowl. But, again, the Pac-12 is definitely going to be wide open for the rest of the year. Air Force, this is a change here. Air Force is undefeated, ranked in the top 25 for me and also ranked in real life. I've been very impressed with this Air Force team. This is a team that likes to run the football, obviously waste time on the clock. If this game were to happen between Washington and Air Force, obviously, I pick Washington to win this game, but Air Force is going to more than likely run out the clock and, keep that Washington defense on the field for a very long time. So this is who I had my Fiesta Bowl matchup. Again, it's Washington. I got them as the top Pac-12 team. And then, obviously, Air Force is not a group of five team, I really wouldn't say, but I got them as the top independent team. And this is, of course, an at-large versus at-large bowl game. So that's how the bowl games work and everything. So this is who I had my Fiesta Bowl. It's Washington and Air Force. Moving on to the Peach Bowl. I made a change here. I got Penn State and Alabama. Penn State, I think they've been the more consistent Big Ten East team this year. But, obviously they're going to have their tough competition tomorrow against Ohio State. That game's going to kind of determine if Penn State's going to be a top 5 team and also a serious playoff contender. I think Penn State has been a playoff contender ever since the offseason began. A lot of people were really high on this team, and they're already 6-0. They have not really played anybody that tough, though. Obviously, they're going to have their chance tomorrow afternoon when they play Ohio State on the road. Very tough place to play. But again, that game's going to kind of determine if they are definitely a top team in the Big Ten and also a top 5 team as well in the country. And then Alabama here. I know a lot of people don't agree with Alabama here being in the New Year's Six Bowl, but it's more than likely that Alabama can go 11-1. For the rest of the year, I can see them probably losing one more game this year, but I think more than likely Alabama could probably still make the SEC championship based off of what I've seen from Alabama in the last few weeks. But again, their offense has not been very good this year, but the defense continues to be really good for Alabama. But it's more than likely we could probably see Alabama versus Georgia in the SEC championship. And if that happens, I mean, obviously, if Georgia wins it, they're automatically in the playoff. But if Alabama wins it, they're definitely in the playoff. So I think Alabama will probably be in there as a number 4 seed. I still think Georgia could probably be in there as a number 1 seed. But again, that's more than likely that we're getting Georgia versus Alabama based off of what we've seen so far in the SEC championship at the end of the year. But again, if Alabama wins out and goes 11-1 and they defeat Georgia, I think they're definitely in the playoff. But if they lose that game, they're going to probably end up in a New Year's Six Bowl, which wouldn't really be a big disappointment for Alabama fans. But again, I got this matchup here, Penn State versus Alabama. I think this would be a really exciting matchup between these two teams. If I was going to make a prediction, I would pick Penn State for right now because I just think they've been very impressive more than Alabama this year. So again, this is who I had in my Peach Bowl. Last week I had Penn State versus Oregon for a while, but this week I got Alabama and Penn State. So that is my Peach Bowl. Let's now go to my last New Year's Six Bowl projection here, and that is going to be the Orange Bowl. No change here still. I got Ohio State and North Carolina here. Ohio State right behind Michigan and Penn State. I mean, I got Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan here all in a New Year's Six Bowl game on this video and everything. But I think more than likely we could see Ohio State go to the Big Ten Championship as well. If they do defeat Michigan and obviously Penn State tomorrow night, I think it will be I think it kind of is, going to be a path for Ohio State to make it to the Big Ten Championship. But again, this is the Orange Bowl. It's a Big Ten versus ACC matchup, and then sometimes an SEC versus ACC matchup as well. North Carolina, they're the second best team in the ACC for me, just right behind Florida State, even though North Carolina's not lost an ACC game just yet. It's more than likely that we could see, North Carolina and Florida State in the ACC championship at the end of the year, but I think North Carolina has a tougher schedule than Florida State for the rest of the way. When you look at it, North Carolina still has to play Clemson on the schedule. They don't play Florida State in the regular season, so it's more than likely that we could see a matchup between the Tar Heels and the Seminoles in the ACC championship. And also, North Carolina still has to play NC State. That game is on the road as well. So North Carolina's schedule for the rest of the way is a little bit tougher than Florida State's, but for Ohio State, that Big Ten East spot is going to be very wide open. Tomorrow night's game between Penn State and Ohio State, it's also going to kind of prove to us if Ohio State is still Ohio State. Will they kind of be that same team, that dominant team? Their defense has looked really good this year. They also got a really good top 25 win over Notre Dame. So, again, watch out for the Buckeyes to probably make a run. But, again, Ohio State and Michigan, it kind of comes down to that game. It usually kind of decides who will win the Big Ten East and everything. But Ohio State's got to get past Penn State first in order to kind of do that. So the Buckeyes and Nittany Lions will be playing tomorrow in the in Columbus. Again, Ohio State has home field advantage going into that game as well. And I did pick Ohio State to win that game in a pretty close one. So we'll see what happens in that game tomorrow afternoon between Ohio State and Penn State. But these are my New Year's Six Bowl projections. Again, no change here to my Orange Bowl projection here. I still feel very confident with Ohio State and North Carolina, just based off of what I've seen so far. Both of these teams are still undefeated as well. So this is my Orange Bowl projection. And those are my New Year's Six Bowl projections for Week 8 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these New Year's Six Bowl projections. Also, give me your New Year's Six Bowl projections down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.